What if I told you that 500 years ago, the most powerful empire in the world tried to destroy a single plant? A plant so nutritious, so powerful, and so deeply connected to freedom that they made growing it punishable by death. They burned fields, they killed farmers, they did everything in their power to erase this plant from history forever. That plant is amaranth. And today, I'm going to tell you the incredible true story of how this ancient superfood survived centuries of suppression, why it was called the forbidden grain, and why corporations still don't want you growing it in your backyard. Because here's the truth. Amaranth has more protein than beef, more calcium than milk, and more iron than spinach. And it grows so easily that a child could do it. Stick around because what happened at number 6 in this story is going to make you furious. And that bonus tip at the end? It's going to show you exactly how to grow this forbidden grain yourself and why it's one of the most important plants you can put in your garden right now. Before we dive into this incredible story, let me set the scene. It's 1519, and Hernan Cortés lands on the coast of Mexico with about 600 Spanish soldiers. They're tired, hungry, and diseased from months at sea. Many are suffering from scurvy and malnutrition. They're expecting to find a primitive civilization that they can easily conquer and control. But when they march inland toward the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, they find something that shocks them to their core. The Aztec people are strong, healthy, and well-fed. The city itself is cleaner and more advanced than any European city of the time. The markets are overflowing with food, and the people, despite living in a harsh, mountainous environment, are thriving in ways the Spanish had never seen. The Spanish couldn't understand it. How were these people so healthy? What was their secret? And most importantly, how could the Spanish control them if they had such abundance and strength? The answer was amaranth. And what the Spanish did next would change the course of history and nearly erase one of humanity's most perfect foods from the face of the earth. This is that story, and it needs to be told. If you care about food freedom, if you care about growing your own nutrition, and if you care about reclaiming knowledge that was stolen from us, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. I share stories like this every single week, stories that corporations don't want you to hear, stories that give you power and independence. Your support means everything. Now let's jump in. Part 1. The Sacred Grain of the Aztecs. To understand why amaranth was forbidden, you need to understand what it meant to the Aztec people. Amaranth wasn't just food. It was sacred. It was power. It was life itself. The Aztecs called amaranth huautli, and it was one of their 3 main staple crops, alongside corn and beans. But while corn and beans fed the body, amaranth fed both body and soul. It was used in every aspect of Aztec life, from daily meals to religious ceremonies to tributes paid to the emperor. Here's what made amaranth so special to the Aztecs. It was incredibly nutritious, providing complete protein that sustained warriors, farmers, and families. It was incredibly productive, yielding massive harvests from small plots of land. And it was incredibly resilient, growing in poor soil, surviving drought, and thriving in the harsh highland environment where other crops struggled. But amaranth had another role that was even more important. It was the grain of the gods. The Aztecs believed amaranth was a gift from Huitzilopochtli, their god of war and the sun. They grew it in sacred gardens. They used it in religious festivals. And most significantly, they mixed amaranth seeds with honey and human blood to create ceremonial cakes shaped like gods and sacred animals. During festivals, these amaranth cakes, called zoali, would be blessed by priests, broken into pieces and distributed to the people to eat. This was a form of communion, similar to Catholic communion, but centered around amaranth instead of wheat. By eating these sacred cakes, the Aztecs believed they were consuming the essence of the gods themselves, receiving strength, courage, and divine protection. Amaranth was everywhere in Aztec society. Farmers paid their taxes in amaranth seeds. Tribute records show that the Aztec capital received over 200,000 bushels of amaranth annually from surrounding regions. That's more amaranth than corn in many areas. Warriors ate amaranth before battle. Pregnant women ate it for strength. Children were fed amaranth porridge. It was the foundation of Aztec civilization. And that's exactly why the Spanish saw it as a threat. Part 2. Why the Spanish feared amaranth. When the Spanish conquistadors witnessed Aztec religious ceremonies involving amaranth, they were horrified. They saw indigenous people creating figures of gods from amaranth and honey, blessing them and then eating them. To the Spanish Catholics, this looked like a mockery of their own communion ritual. It looked like devil worship. But here's what the Spanish really understood, even if they didn't say it out loud. Amaranth represented independence. As long as the Aztec people could grow this incredibly nutritious, productive grain that required no European seeds, no European knowledge, and no European control, they would never be fully conquered. Think about it from the Spanish perspective. They wanted to control the indigenous population. They wanted to force them to work in mines and on plantations. They wanted to convert them to Christianity and make them dependent on Spanish goods. But how do you control a population that can feed itself better than you can feed yourself? How do you make people dependent when they're growing complete nutrition in their own gardens? You can't. So the Spanish made a decision. They would destroy Amaranth completely. In the 1520s and 1530s, as the Spanish consolidated their control over the former Aztec Empire, they began a systematic campaign to erase Amaranth from existence. It started with religious justification. Spanish priests declared that Amaranth was a pagan crop associated with human sacrifice and devil worship. Growing it, they said, was an act against God and the Church. Then came the enforcement. Spanish authorities ordered all amaranth fields to be burned. Farmers caught growing amaranth would be punished severely. The punishment? Having their hands cut off. This wasn't just about stopping amaranth cultivation. It was about terrorizing the indigenous population into compliance. Imagine being a farmer. You've grown amaranth your entire life. Your parents grew it. Your grandparents grew it. It's been your family's primary food source for generations. And now foreign invaders are telling you that if you plant this crop, they'll cut off your hands. That's not just suppression. That's cultural genocide. But the Spanish went even further. They destroyed seed stores, massive granaries filled with amaranth that were meant to feed communities through lean times. They burned sacred gardens where amaranth was grown for ceremonies. They outlawed amaranth sales in markets. And they heavily promoted European crops like wheat and barley to replace amaranth, even though these crops weren't well suited to Mexican highlands and provided inferior nutrition. The message was clear. Forget amaranth. Forget your traditions. Forget your independence. Rely on us instead. Part 3. The near extinction of a superfood. For the next 450 years, amaranth nearly disappeared from human agriculture. The Spanish suppression was so effective that within a few generations, most people forgot that amaranth had ever been a major food crop. It survived only in tiny pockets, remote mountain villages where indigenous farmers secretly saved seeds and quietly planted small patches, hidden from authorities. These secret seed savers were heroes. They risked their lives and their freedom to preserve this ancient crop. They passed seeds down through families, generation after generation, keeping amaranth alive even though the world had forgotten about it. But outside of these hidden communities, amaranth vanished from cuisine, from agriculture, and from collective memory. European and American agricultural scientists had no interest in it. Cookbooks didn't mention it. Seed catalogs didn't carry it. As far as the modern world was concerned, amaranth was a footnote in history. A curiosity mentioned briefly in books about ancient civilizations, but not a crop worth paying attention to. Meanwhile, the world was developing massive agricultural industries based on wheat, corn, rice, and soybeans. These became the foundation of the global food system. Billions of dollars were invested in breeding programs, mechanization, and distribution networks for these crops. And amaranth, it was completely left behind. This near extinction wasn't an accident. It was the result of a deliberate campaign of suppression that succeeded beyond the Spanish conquistadors' wildest dreams. They wanted to erase amaranth, and they almost did. But they didn't count on the seed savers. They didn't count on the indigenous communities who refused to let this knowledge die. And they didn't count on the plant itself, because amaranth, it turns out, really doesn't want to be erased. Part 4, the rediscovery that changed everything. The story takes a dramatic turn in 1972. That's when an American researcher named John Robson stumbled across amaranth seeds in a seed bank while researching ancient crops. He was curious. He planted them. And when he started analyzing the grain, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Amaranth wasn't just nutritious, it was one of the most complete, perfect foods on planet Earth. It had protein levels that rivaled meat. It had a complete amino acid profile, including high levels of lysine, an amino acid usually lacking in grains. It was packed with iron, calcium, magnesium, and other essential minerals. And it was naturally gluten-free, making it perfect for people with celiac disease. Robson shared his findings with other researchers, and suddenly, amaranth became the subject of intense scientific study. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, researchers were publishing papers with titles like Amaranth, the Forgotten Grain of the Aztecs, and Could Amaranth Feed the World? Organizations like the National Academy of Sciences took notice. They published reports calling amaranth one of the world's most promising crops and a potential solution to protein malnutrition in developing countries. NASA even began studying amaranth for long-term space missions because it's so nutritious and so easy to grow in controlled environments. But here's where the story gets interesting. Despite all this scientific enthusiasm, despite proof that amaranth could help solve global malnutrition, despite its incredible nutrition and easy cultivation, amaranth still didn't make it into mainstream agriculture. Why not? Because the same forces that suppressed it 500 years ago are still at work today. They just wear different uniforms. Part 5. Why corporations still don't want you growing amaranth. Let me be blunt about this. Amaranth represents everything that big agriculture and big food corporations hate. It's too independent, too easy, too empowering. Here's the problem from their perspective. First, amaranth is ridiculously easy to grow. You don't need expensive hybrid seeds. You don't need chemical fertilizers. You don't need pesticides. You don't need complicated equipment. You literally scatter seeds on the ground, water them occasionally, and they grow. That means seed companies, chemical companies, and equipment manufacturers can't profit from you. Second, amaranth seeds can be saved. Unlike hybrid corn or patented soybeans that you have to buy new every year, amaranth is an open-pollinated heirloom crop. Buy seeds once, save seeds from your harvest, and you have free seeds forever. That eliminates the recurring revenue that seed companies depend on. Third, amaranth threatens the protein industry. If people can grow their own complete protein in their backyard, they don't need to buy meat, eggs, dairy, protein powders, or protein bars. The meat industry is worth over $200 billion per year in the US alone. The protein supplement industry is worth $18 billion. Amaranth threatens all of that. Fourth, amaranth doesn't fit the industrial agriculture model. It's harvested by hand. It doesn't store as long as wheat. It requires processing that's different from standard grains. Massive agribusiness corporations can't efficiently grow amaranth on thousands of acres using mechanized equipment, which means they can't control the supply and profit from it. Fifth, amaranth represents decentralization of food power. Right now, a handful of massive corporations control most of the world's food supply, from seeds to farms to processing to distribution. But amaranth? Anyone can grow it anywhere. That decentralizes power away from corporations and puts it back in the hands of ordinary people. So what did corporations do? The same thing the Spanish did. They ignored it. They didn't actively ban amaranth. That would be too obvious. But they certainly didn't promote it. They didn't invest in breeding programs. They didn't add it to grocery store shelves. They didn't include it in government nutrition programs. They just quietly made sure amaranth stayed obscure and unavailable. But something's changing, and corporations are starting to worry. Part 6. The comeback. That corporations fear. Over the last 20 years, amaranth has been making a quiet but powerful comeback. And it's not being driven by corporations or governments. It's being driven by regular people who've discovered this amazing grain and decided to grow it, eat it, and share it. Here's what's happening. Magnapters, small farmers, are rediscovering amaranth. In Mexico, Peru, Bolivia, and other parts of Central and South America, indigenous farmers are bringing amaranth back to their fields. They're saving seeds, sharing them with neighbors, and reviving traditional recipes. In the U.S., small organic farms are starting to grow amaranth and sell it at farmers markets. Health-conscious consumers are demanding it. As people become more aware of gluten intolerance, protein quality, and nutritional density, they're seeking out alternatives to wheat and corn. Amaranth fits perfectly. It's gluten-free, high in protein, and packed with minerals. Gardeners are planting it. This is the big one. Backyard gardeners are discovering that amaranth is incredibly easy to grow and produces massive yields in small spaces. One 10 by 10 foot plot can produce 50 to 100 pounds of grain. Word is spreading through gardening communities, YouTube videos, and social media. Chefs are cooking with it. High-end restaurants are starting to feature amaranth in dishes, introducing it to people who've never heard of it. Food bloggers are creating amaranth recipes. Cookbooks are including it. Scientists are still advocating for it. Researchers continue to publish studies showing amaranth's potential to address malnutrition, adapt to climate change, and grow in difficult conditions where other crops fail. The momentum is building. And here's what makes this comeback different from other food trends. Amaranth can't be corporatized. It refuses to be controlled. It's too easy to grow, too easy to save seeds from, and too empowering to regular people. That's why this comeback matters. It's not just about a grain, it's about power. It's about who controls food and who controls knowledge. Part 7. The incredible nutritional power of amaranth. Let me give you the numbers that prove why amaranth is worth fighting for. Protein. Amaranth seeds are 13 to 14% protein by weight. More importantly, it's complete protein containing all 9 essential amino acids. 1 cup of cooked amaranth provides about 9 grams of protein, more than an egg. And the protein quality is exceptional, with high levels of lysine, an amino acid usually lacking in grains. Iron. Amaranth contains about 5.2 milligrams of iron per cooked cup, 29% of your daily needs. That's more than spinach. And unlike spinach, amaranth has lower levels of oxalates that block iron absorption, which means your body actually uses more of the iron. Calcium. 1 cup of cooked amaranth grain provides about 116 milligrams of calcium. The leaves provide even more, up to 276 milligrams per cup, which rivals milk. And amaranth calcium comes with magnesium, which your body needs to properly use calcium. Fiber. Amaranth provides about 5 grams of fiber per cup, more than white rice, more than pasta, comparable to oatmeal. Minerals. Amaranth is loaded with manganese, 105% of daily needs per cup, magnesium, 40% of daily needs, phosphorus, 36%, and significant amounts of zinc, potassium, and selenium. Antioxidants. Amaranth contains powerful antioxidants, including vitamin E, phenolic acids, and unique compounds that give it that beautiful red-purple color. These fight inflammation and chronic disease. No gluten. Naturally gluten-free and safe for people with celiac disease. When you eat amaranth, you're getting complete protein, high iron, good calcium, plenty of fiber, powerful antioxidants, and a full spectrum of vitamins and minerals, all in one food. There's literally nothing else that delivers this level of nutrition in such a simple package. This is why the Aztecs were so healthy. This is why amaranth sustained entire civilizations. And this is why it needs to come back. Part 8. How to grow amaranth. Reclaim your food freedom. Now let me show you how to grow amaranth in your own garden. This is easier than you think. Step 1. Get seeds. Find heirloom amaranth seeds from a reputable source. Look for grain varieties like Golden Giant, Opapeo, or Hopi Red Dye. Avoid ornamental varieties. You want the ones bred for food. Step 2. Choose your spot. Amaranth needs full sun and decent drainage. That's it. It grows in poor soil, sandy soil, clay soil. It doesn't care. It's incredibly forgiving. Step 3. Plant. Wait until after your last frost date in spring. Scatter seeds on the soil surface or plant them 1/4 inch deep. Space rows about 18 to 24 inches apart. Seeds are tiny, so mix them with sand for easier spreading. Step 4. Water and wait. Water gently after planting. Keep soil moist for the first week until seedlings emerge, usually 3 to 5 days. Once plants are 4 to 6 inches tall, reduce watering. Amaranth is drought tolerant. Step 5. Thin plants. When seedlings are a few inches tall, thin to 12 to 18 inches apart. Eat the thinnings. They're delicious baby greens. Step 6. Harvest leaves. Optional. As plants grow, harvest young tender leaves from the top. They taste like mild spinach and are packed with nutrition. Step 7. Let seeds mature. Plants will grow 5 to 8 feet tall with beautiful seed heads. Let them mature until leaves drop and seeds fall out easily when rubbed, usually 100 to 120 days after planting. Dinamsu Step 8. Harvest seeds. Cut seed heads, hang them to dry, then beat them over a sheet to release seeds. Winnow to remove chaff. Step 9. Save seeds. This is crucial. Save seeds from your best plants for next year. You now have free amaranth forever. One small plot can produce 50 to 100 pounds of grain. That's potentially $200 to $400 worth if you were buying ancient grains at the health food store. But you grew it for the cost of one packet of seeds. Part 9. How to eat amaranth, delicious and versatile. Amaranth is incredibly versatile. Here are the main ways to use it. Cooked grain. Cook like rice. 1 cup amaranth to 2.5 cups water. Simmer 20 to 25 minutes. Use as a side dish, breakfast porridge, or in soups. Popped amaranth. Heat a dry pan. Add seeds. Shake constantly. They pop like tiny popcorn. Eat as a crunchy snack or sprinkle on salads. Amaranth flour. Grind seeds into flour for pancakes, breads, and baking. Mix with other flours for best texture. Cooked greens. Sauté young leaves like spinach. Add to smoothies, omelets, or soups. Traditional alegria. Mix popped amaranth with honey. Form into bars, a traditional Mexican treat that's been made for thousands of years. The flavor is mild, slightly nutty, and naturally sweet. Kids love it, and it's perfect for people transitioning away from wheat and corn. Bonus tip, the part nobody talks about. Here's the bonus tip. Amaranth leaves are actually more nutritious than the seeds, and you can harvest leaves continuously throughout the growing season while waiting for seeds to mature. Fresh amaranth leaves contain more vitamin C than oranges, more calcium than milk, weight for weight, more iron than spinach, more vitamin A than carrots. In many parts of Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean, amaranth is grown primarily as a leafy vegetable. It's called Chinese spinach, or callaloo, and is considered a delicacy. Start harvesting leaves when plants are 6 to 8 inches tall. Pick the tender top 4 to 6 inches every 2 to 3 weeks. Plants will branch out and produce even more. By the time your plants produce seeds, you'll have already harvested pounds of nutritious greens. Then you get your massive seed harvest on top of that. 1 crop, 2 complete harvests. Final thoughts. Why this story matters. Amaranth isn't just a grain. It's a symbol of resistance against oppression. It's proof that indigenous knowledge and traditional crops are often superior to industrial agriculture. And it's evidence that when corporations and governments try to erase something, it's usually because that thing gives power to ordinary people. 500 years ago, the Spanish tried to destroy amaranth because it represented freedom and independence. Today, corporations ignore amaranth for the same reason. But amaranth survived. The knowledge survived. And now it's coming back stronger than ever. When you grow amaranth in your garden, you're not just growing food. You're participating in an act of cultural reclamation. You're honoring the indigenous people who risked everything to save these seeds. And you're saying no to a food system that wants you dependent and powerless. Every seed you plant is a seed of resistance. Every plant you grow is proof that they can't control you. Every meal you cook with amaranth is a victory for food freedom. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button right now. Share this video with everyone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling me if you're going to grow amaranth this year. And most importantly, get seeds and plant them. They tried to erase this grain. They failed. Don't let their efforts be rewarded by continuing to ignore amaranth. Bring it back. Grow it. Eat it. Share it. Thanks for watching, garden friend. Now go reclaim what was stolen from you. I'll see you in the next one.